Welcome to lesson 24. We're going to be learning about processing file input using scanner. So if you look in your book, what I want you to do is I'm going to right click and do select tool. I'm going to copy and paste this information into a text file or a notepad file. And we want to do file, save as, and we want to be not in lesson 23 like where I have mine going, but lesson 24. And we want to delete that .txt, and we're going to call this numdata.in. And remember to change the type as to all files. And then click Save. Then you can close it. So I'm going to show you the program that we're going to use for this project. So go ahead and pause the video here if you need to copy all this down. And don't forget to import your Java util and your IO, especially when scanner is involved. Now you'll notice here that for our file location, all we have is numdata.in. Since this file is in the same folder as this project, we don't need to actually put its location. This is a little hack that you can use for programming. So with the get line thing, this means this line here is text sub 0. This is text sub 1. This is text sub 2. So those whole lines are part of our array. So what we want to do is we want to take those lines of code that are just numbers and then become this. So we want to print out the number plus the next number plus the next number plus the next number equals 30. So like whatever they add up to. So we're going to change whatever's in our text file. Now this looks simple, but this is going to be one of the hardest things that we have done yet. We also have to assume that we can't just go check whatever's in the file. So that way whatever gets changed in the file will change in our program. Now we can assume that they're numbers, and we know that it's delimited by white space. So delimited just means that we can tell what the boundary is. They all have the same boundary, which is just a space. It's also unpredictable how many items we have in each line. So like this first line only has 4, but this one has 7. There's no correlation between the two. So we have to be able to count each line we run. So come back to your code, and we have this line here that has been commented out that basically tests our code as it runs. So we're going to delete those remarks so that our code runs fully, and then we can kind of see what is in each index. And I have an error on this, so I'm going to check it out. I have an extra parenthesis. So go ahead and save. We have no errors. So go ahead and make your screen larger and click play. So it does run, it prints our code. Well, it prints what's in our file, so we know our code is working. My recommendation to you is that each time you write a code like this, that you put in a line like this to test it. So once you know that it works, you can rem out your statement so it doesn't necessarily print anything anymore. That's not really the point of this. The point of it is to import and then interpret information. So now we verified that it is importing our data properly. So now what we're going to do is we're going to start looking at that and start trying to put those plus signs in there. So finding those spaces in each line and adding them together. So what we need to do is we need to create a loop that goes through each line of our document instead of just the whole document. So we're going to start this loop by setting a new integer j, and j is going to be less than or equal to the max index. So remember from before, we started the max index at -1, and as long as it found a line, it was going to increase that index by 1. So now the max index is how many lines there are. So for each line of code, it's going to run this. And then it's going to increase j until it's less than or equal to the max index. So as long as it reaches the same length as the max index, this code will run. And inside this code, we're setting up a new scanner. So the scanner before was basically to scan for a file, whereas we already have the file. You see, we already closed it. We already have the information imported into our program. So now what this scanner is going to do is it's going to look at the information we just imported from this file and go through it each line at a time. That's what the J is for. So this first line is text sub 0, text sub 1, and text sub 2. So right now all we have is a loop that's going to go through each line. Now we need to make it do something with it. So put in our plus sign, put in our equals, and actually calculate the stuff. All right, you can pause here to type in this extra code that I put in here. So start up here with the string answer. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be doing the quick dirty way of converting an integer into string. So what's going to happen is we're going to keep adding numbers in, but we're adding them into quotes. So whenever it prints out, it's going to look like this. So it's going to put that plus sign in between each one. And down here, we have another loop inside our loop, which you might remember is called a nested loop. So we have a while loop inside our for loop, and this while loop is going to go through each line. So it's going to go through this first line, get this first number. The next time it goes through the loop, it's going to get the second number, the third time, the third number. And it's going to keep going on and filling in our stuff. And since we don't know how many it's going to have each time for each line, we use the has next. So then that way it's going through SC. So that scanners that line of text. And each time it sees a delimiter, like a space here, it's going to know that the next item is there. Once it runs out of spaces, it's going to end. We're going to exit this loop, and then the whole loop's going to start over again with the next line. Okay, so here's how the rest of the code will look. If you need to pause it here to get it, you can. So what we did here is we said int I equals next int. So it's constantly looking for that next integer, setting it to I. So the answer is going to be whatever the answer was before plus, and then you add a plus sign, plus the new integer. So that answer keeps filling in over and over again, and the sum is actually adding them. So basically, answer concatenates all of the information together, and sum actually calculates the solution. So this while loop executes for each line. Then once that line is done, it's going to go here, calculate the answer, it's going to print it, and then it's going to come right back up and reset that sum to 0 and answer to nothing. So for each line, it's going to start over and over again. So let's go ahead and run it and make sure it works right. All right, so it did that, but it's all on one line. So let's go down and make sure, yep, I just have print ln. So let's try that again. Okay, so that looks pretty good. That did a lot of what we were trying to do, but the thing is we have this plus out in the front. That's kind of annoying, which leads us to your project. Your project is to get rid of that leading plus sign. So you're going to have to investigate the code, tinker a little bit with it, and get rid of that plus sign in the front. Then you're going to have some stuff out here. You're going to have to create your own text file to sort the names. And you're also going to have one to calculate student averages. Good luck. Let me know if you have any questions.